The state of Mississippi's House has decided no taxes on NIL. Is this an unfair advantage? Who else does it? That and more here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be having a little fun with the news that has come out that the House in the state of Mississippi has passed an adventure, if you will, in NIL. What does that mean? No taxes on name, image, and likeness. Is that good? Is that bad? Is it an advantage? What will the NCAA do? This is a new trend because, in case you didn't know, the state of Arkansas did the same thing last year. They are not no income tax states like a Texas, an Alaska, a Florida, a Nevada, a New Hampshire, Tennessee. There are different things here going on because they're trying to gain an advantage. We're going to kind of go through it. Why did Mississippi do it now? Is it going to really help? Will the NCAA do anything else? What other states will jump into the fray? I have one in particular I'm very confident in. And we're also going to talk about the impact on recruits and transfers. Will it really sway anybody in terms of where they go? Let's be honest. At the end of the day, the people in these states are trying to get more players to their favorite schools and remain in favor with the people that vote for them. We'll talk a little bit about that because there's some that are pretty against this as well. All right, here's the deal. Florida and Texas are the two prominent states for recruiting that just flat out don't have state income tax. Correct me if I'm wrong for those of you that follow this stuff. Tennessee doesn't have state income tax with an asterisk. If you have dividends, those are taxable. Those are the only three states that come to mind that are prominent in recruiting. There's one other I'll get to momentarily that's borderline that don't have state income tax. The other is Washington. Obviously, UW can take advantage of that, but that's still a state where sales tax is high, et cetera. In certain areas, it's a little different, but that's not a major state for many programs to recruit. It's just too remote. So really, it's just Texas and Florida that it really matters, and they've had that edge for a long time. So if UT's going after a kid and USC's going after a kid, like taxes in California are absolutely insane, it's an edge. Does it matter that much? I've heard recruits talk about it, but I don't think it's a major factor. You usually got to pick the school that you want to go to, and you kind of deal with those consequences. That's just been my personal experience. I'm not saying that's across the board. There's no way to know on everybody. To that end, you're not going to be mad if you're looking at Mississippi State or Southern Miss or Ole Miss if you don't have to pay as an in-state guy once you live there. Hey, you're not paying an in-state tax on your name, image, and likeness. Sure, that's going to help. Same thing in Arkansas. State of Tennessee's got a law that you can't prohibit, meaning the NCAA or Congress. Hey, you can't prohibit how much we pay. There can't be a cap, which that's going to be a whole nother thing. That's on the edge of this, but it's still a big deal. And again, it's a no state income tax minus the dividends anyway. So there's a lot of little things here that these states are trying to do to one up each other. Arkansas is connected to Tennessee. Mississippi's connected to both Arkansas and Tennessee. And then we got another state that we'll talk about. That's the state of Louisiana with the whole Ole Miss LSU thing. Does anybody think there won't be some kind of effort in the state of Louisiana, even though that state is broke because of all the hurricanes and everything? They've just had too many disasters. They're going to try to keep up with the Joneses, if you will. This is fascinating to me. I don't have any clear-cut answer for how it's going to go, but that's my next guess. If there was another state that's probably going to do it, it would be Louisiana. Anybody else? I don't know. My guess is Oklahoma because it's not a no-income state tax, and Texas is. OU hates Texas and vice versa. OU probably hates Texas A&M and vice versa. That's another possibility. Those would be the ones in particular I would think about. We shall see. But to that end, I just kind of wanted to kick around my thoughts on it. But Now it's the important part. Will anybody fight back? Will it last in court? Will anybody challenge this? Will it pass other measures? Will the NCAA shoot this down? Can they? Like all this stuff is just non-congruent. Like nobody does the same things. And while college football is fun in some ways because there's competitive advantages in certain places, when you start reaching into the pocketbook, it gets really testy. So there are a couple of things here that I think people can do that aren't any kind of a legislative body or the NCAA having any administrative authority. Number one, they can stop playing them in other sports. They can go out of their way to not promote them. They can have people even in their own state that don't like this to go against it. It could get really ugly. And basically it's collusion. It may not be something you can prove in court, but there's going to be people that don't want the players not to get that. I've seen a few people even post about this. Not going to name any names. Some are fans of schools that aren't in Mississippi. Again, do your own research. I'm not going to drag anybody into the mud, but they're like, so cops got to pay in Mississippi. Caretakers got to pay. Health workers got to pay. The guys that are getting rich on NIL don't. And I was like, yeah, that's an interesting take. I saw that yesterday. Well, heck, it's Peter Burns. He's a huge LSU guy, and he's ESPN, et cetera. He's a lot of fun to listen to. He's pretty hilarious. But he was taking a shot at the state of Mississippi, and he probably hates Ole Miss because he is a absolute, unequivocal, dyed-in-the-wool, rabid LSU fan. Doesn't hide from it. But if Louisiana does the same thing, will Peter say something? I don't know. My guess is he might take a shot at his own state. He's pretty blunt. That's why I like listening to him. But for now, he took his shots at the Magnolia State. I get it. So who else is going to try to find an edge, and what else could it be? We're going to talk about that next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time. Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You always knew the game, never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now actually take part live in a market powered by people. You are no longer just a spectator, play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the United States. Download the Robinhood app to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. Take your game to the next level with the Everydayer Club. Down below in the description, we'll explain the Discord and all the perks, but here's the number one thing. Audio, $5 a month or $50 a year. You get no ads with your audio. I don't care if it's Spotify, Apple, Podbean, or anywhere else. You download your pods right here. Locked On Podcast Network is hooking you up $5 or $50 a year. Check it out. $5 or $50 a year. And again, down in the description below is a better overall view. Now, I have a few thoughts on what's next. I wrote down a few notes. Tell me what you think in the chat, and I'll get in there and comment on some of the topics that are in there as well. But since we're not going to NIL for the players, just throwing this is a little edge. I'm not sure, but I think the following will at least be kicked around privately. I don't know if it'll make it to the public. Let's not at some point, like maybe their first $2 million a year or $3 million, there's taxes on coaches. But maybe if they're making $10 million, like LSU head coach, Florida head coach, Tennessee head coach, whatever, after that many millions of dollars, they're not taxed. You're going to get pushback if you do that because there are going to be people mad about that when the highest paid state employee isn't being taxed. But somebody's going to at least kick that around. What do you think and why? Also, athletes, they make money, but the athletic departments want to make money. How about states saying athletic departments like state of Louisiana? They got a bunch of smaller schools. Nichols and Southern, etc. And of course, LSU, you got University of Louisiana, all these different places. What if the athletic department revenue is not taxed? Therefore, theoretically, they would have more money to spend on facilities, et cetera, and name, image, and likeness. I think that one's a pretty likely grab bag situation for a lot of states. If you do it across the board for any state, whether it's public or private, there wouldn't be any pushback. As long as you do it for all of them, that is a possibility. And same thing, ticket sales. Think about what, like any big SEC team or Penn State, it's 110,000 people in one of these stadiums. The ticket sales from a game, if they are not taxed, again, that's more money for that institution to then pour back into their facilities, their coaching staff, invest in their players. Obviously, the most important thing, the student athletes themselves. Theoretically, you could go that route. And then there's the other. This is where it's a little bit interesting. The states that are next, I talked about Louisiana. Who's going to come up with something that the way they market, maybe the companies, this is the big one. The companies that invest, like as an example, LSU is a Nike school. They've got this special initiative going on right now. They have 10 athletes, a number of schools that are Nike schools. I know LSU is one of them. If a school does this initiative in state X, you can fill out whatever it is. If you come do this, kind of like Nike is with LSU at our school, we won't tax your revenue up to a certain point, or we'll reduce it or something. They'll give somebody a special deal if they hook up a school, especially, I think this could happen. This would actually be a good thing, not just the elite programs in terms of perception and history, like at LSU or a Southern Cal. But again, this is very important across the board. If you come into our state and you hook up a smaller school, a G6, or you at least do something with them, no taxes on your revenue to a certain point, or you get a reduction. You can work that out. I wouldn't be surprised, because they're trying to do anything they can, these politicians, to stay in office, and they're probably fans of a lot of the schools in state anyway. So to them, it's a win-win. I wouldn't be surprised if coaches, the universities, and some of their partners, it could even be something like Citibank, if they sponsor a stadium, they're not taxed on some of the revenue they make. There's a lot of ways you could do it, and at least try. They may get it sued and shot down, but it is certainly a possibility. All right, let's see what we got here in the chat today. What's going on, Salty? Happy Tuesday to you. Salty says, it seems that Mississippi has an argument in its favor since the schools it's competing with are states that do not have a state income tax. Well, part of it, Texas does not, Florida does not. And again, for those who did not hear earlier, Tennessee does not have a state income tax minus dividends. So like your traditional investments on Wall Street. Okay, fair enough. But Arkansas, they went with this plan last year. I didn't know it. It didn't really make much news. I think it's partially because, let's be honest, Arkansas is not competitive in football as far as the SEC goes. It's a bottom dweller. They're awful. If that was a state that was doing well, like if they did that in Georgia, there would be people looking, hey, wait a minute. Georgia, UGA, doesn't need any more edges. They don't need any more advantages. Will a state like Georgia or Alabama go this route? That's an interesting topic within, and I don't know what will happen, but that's a possibility. Salty, would some states go as far as to offer some kind of tax bonus in addition to cutting any tax on any NIL? That's kind of what I talked about. I thought about your question. I asked about it. But basically, I think that there's a lot of different ways they could do. Tax bonus is broad. If you do something to help our state, to help our athletes, to be honest, to help us win and keep me in office, politicians are always looking for that. That's probably the best answer. And here's what Salty says about it. An actual positive monetary award, something like this, several $100 each Alaskan receives on taxes as a kind of dividend for the use of Alaskan oil. That's a really neat one. And great questions can come from that. There's all kinds of topics about the whole Alaskan tax thing where people get money back, like $1,000 or something. It's pretty interesting. But It's possible. I mean, if you're a business and you're awarding athletes at Mississippi State, for instance, X number of dollars, maybe they could tier it. You get lower taxes because you helped out, or you get a nice little stipend because you helped our athletes. I could absolutely see that. Again, how legal that is, what the NCAA thinks, that's not my bag. I don't know how that would work because these are state laws. It gets really touchy when government and the NCAA intertwine. Very, very touchy. This is getting out of hand, says Katie. I still say you bring back some semblance of fairness by only allowing each team to spend $10 million total in NIL. I understand what Katie's saying, but the problem is the genie's out of the bottle with openly allowing boosters to have these collectives and stuff. It doesn't matter what the total is. They're all in for cheating. Let me give you an example of why I say that. In my experience, and this is in numerous cases, it's one thing to see like a booster is really passionate about their school. I don't care if it's Tennessee, Virginia Tech, it doesn't matter. They don't want their school to win. They want to directly be a reason their school wins, meaning what they did. It is flat out about ego. Not going to name the school, but I was told about a year ago, there was a major program, one that's mentioned on this show quite often, that had a booster outside the coach's knowledge. This is asinine. Was trying to get quarterbacks to transfer at his school, and they didn't even want to transfer for a quarterback. If that's not ego, I'm not sure what is. So I understand Katie's point. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Salty, California would be a catastrophe. Sam Darnold actually owed money for his Super Bowl win, as California taxed him more for his week working in California than he was awarded as a Super Bowl winner. Don't get me started on California taxes, but that's asked. How can that be over 100%? How can you get taxed over 100%? I'm not sure I want to know, but if it's California, anything's possible. That state is really odd with taxes. Katie, limiting NIL spending is also good for high school recruits because it minimizes the number of portal players coming in. I don't think you can put the genie back on that one either, and this is a sidebar. So many kids have a expectation of what they are compared to what they really are, and that's why the portal is a disaster. Over half the guys that go in the portal will fail at their objective. They all want to go up for the most part. There are a few exceptions that think they just got hosed or mad at the coach. Okay. But a lot of these guys think they're going up when the schools don't want them. So I don't think that's really going to matter. The top portal guys, again, the collectives are going to do the money, even if it's off to the side, because what is it, $20 million or whatever that they're getting from the shared revenue per school. It's the collectives that are the key. If you're not overspending with your if you are not bold-faced cheating, you have no shot. And that's a problem. NIL is the reason players want to stay in school forever. Well, Chandler Morris would agree with you. I will say that quarterback in Virginia is still trying to get back into school there. Go Irish. Nate, 75-75. So glad I'm in a state that is run properly for the most part, tax-free for NIL, but taxing everyone else is a slap in the face for hardworking Americans. That's the point here. I mean, I'm not trying to jump into the political realm, and I don't know what direction this is going to go, but I've seen people on social media on both sides of this. It's very touchy, and it is 100% political. Phantom Golf. There will be lawsuits waiting as soon as this hits. Why would any other worker in Mississippi pay state income tax once this passes? Here's where it gets interesting. And maybe they think they're slick on this. This is another political thing. We all know the NCAA and the schools that they represent under no circumstance, and I mean zero, want players to be employees. Why? They're worried about long-term disability, and they know they're going to pay gazillion dollars more, obviously I'm being somewhat facetious, because if players are employees, there's going to be collective bargaining. They're going to lose money. So to that end, they're going to say, this is NIL, they're not employees. That's going to be the argument in some capacity. I'm not a lawyer, but that's going to be part of it. But that doesn't mean that people in Mississippi can't vote people out and can't cause a thing. Like This is long, long way from being instituted. So it's pretty interesting. I'm not sure what direction we're going to go, and how soon. I don't know how fast it'll go through in Mississippi, what other steps it's got to take, or when they plan to implement it. But I assumed right away there could be some major pushback, and there could be in other states too. So we'll explore that more after the break. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the part that says it all. In the minute or so, I'm going to be speaking with you. Companies like yours made 27 hires with Indeed from our data worldwide. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsor credit to help you with the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast. Support our show by saying you heard about it on this pod. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We are also brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. Early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the hardwood. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build anything you want. Player props. You can do your two favorite teams. You could use just a money line, whatever it is you want. You can combo it and look at it from any perspective. It could be your favorite team. It could be the team you hate. It is completely up to you with FanDuel. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. All right, let's jump back in the chat. This is pretty fun topic because there's so many sidebars and so many side pieces. It really is interesting. Katie says, my mom is the Canes Collective and is in the Canes Collective, and Miami could spend $50 million if that's what it takes. How is that a level playing field? It's not. You're 100% right. It's not really possible because we all know they're going to backdoor this stuff. That's what I was talking about earlier on one of your very first, might have been the first thing you put in the chat today, Katie. Nobody's going to put the genie back in the bottle. And that's why I might as well bring this up. The point about the transfers, I'm sure we've all seen it. I've talked about it on this very show recently. In some way, shape, or form, it has to come across the lane and also be implemented for this stuff. Here's what I mean. If you get caught in any way, shape, or form, they've got to enforce it, but they got to hammer teams. They got to take scholarships, and coaches got to sit out. Those two things are really touchy. The head coach is not going to accept not being on the sideline, not being able to recruit, not even being able to be in the office. With the stuff they're talking about with the spring portal, go look this up. And we potted about it right here on Locked on the Portal. They will lose a lot of money because it's 20% of your football revenue. I assume that's the shared revenue that they give to players for name, image, and likeness. That's a lot. That's a lot. So you're going to have to find a way to do some of this stuff. But to that end, it's much more difficult to prove. How do you do it? I don't know. But if players are just suddenly transferring it, they have to look into it in some capacity, especially outside the portal window. Again, don't get me started. Katie, I'm just sick of it. Yeah, me and you both, but it, because of all the, and rightfully so, all the political choke points, if you will, where they make sure that nothing goes through too fast. That's the idea of big politics. So nothing gets through that shouldn't. The downside of that is that change is slow. So I don't know how it's going to work. Phantom Golf. It is still money earned while living in the state. Doesn't matter if you are an employee or not. That's true, but I'm sure somebody's going to try to argue it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. You may be 100% correct. But if they're employees, I think it would be easier to go against it. And that's a rock in the hard place for some. I'm just going to throw this in here for politicians, because there are people that are diehards for like pick a school in any state. If they pass this in their state, they're going to want it because they know that's a recruiting and transfer portal advantage. But their next door neighbor may be like, hey, I put myself through college. I'm getting taxed. Why aren't you? That's what you're talking about. For politicians, this is going to be interesting. We'll see who follows Arkansas and Mississippi in this, or if anybody else does. Katie, furthermore, how are players not enrolled in classes playing sports? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Why would anybody not be enrolled? If there's something I don't know about, please shed some light on it, but I was not aware of that, because that's something nothing would shock me, but it's pretty crazy. If you're talking about guys that are graduated and continuing on with their NIL, I could see that. Chandler Morris maybe still getting paid because he played at Virginia, something of that ilk, but nonetheless, it's pretty wild in my opinion. Last thought on this, there's going to be a couple of things that happen between now and the season that I'm not even anticipating. And again, I went through no tax on coaches is something I thought about. No tax on ticket sales, so athletic departments can save money. That's a lot of cash. Athletic department revenue, just in general, not being taxed in a state. So theoretically, again, they'll have more of a pot to pull from, more money to do for facilities, for coaches, and of course, once again, name, image, and likeness for the players. All sports, not just football. It could be hockey, it could be women's track, or anything else. If you want to contribute, by all means, go out and do it. Make sure that it's a lot of fun. Have a good time with it, whatever sport it may be. If it's your money and you want to donate, I get it. Finally, thank you once again for checking out the Portal Podcast. It's a lot of fun to do these kinds of things. There's a lot of craziness going on in college football, and I really enjoy it. Katie says, Carson Beck said straight up he hadn't been in class in 2 years. Most of these kids are just taking online classes. There's been a lot of discussion about that. Notre Dame is one of the few schools where you actually got to go to class. Most schools, the kids are in the football facility. This is all like 90% of them. You're in the football facility. You're online. You're not going to class unless you really want to go to one. Like if you've got a lab for some physics class or something. You literally never meet the other people in the classroom unless you've got a group project. Literally. So I could be wrong, but I don't think that he's not enrolled. I think that means he's not taking a single class where he's got to walk into a classroom, which to me is a joke. Just saying. Not picking on Carson Beck. This across college football, that needs to be something that's a little bit different. Football players need to be a part, so do basketball for that matter, of the student body. Never taking classes in the classroom, that's not a good thing for college athletics, not good for our society. So I agree with Katie in general. That's probably not good. Thank you once again for checking out the Portal Podcast. I truly appreciate it. We will see you again soon. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. And once again, check out the Everydayer Club down below. It's pretty straightforward, $5 a month or $50 a year. No ads for your audio if you do that. And there's also a Discord. Check out the Everydayer Club. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.